Hi all my students, how are we going? I hope you all are learning well for your ICSE exams, which will be, for your prelims at the moment. And in this module, I'm going to start with the contemporary world, which comes in your section 2, in part 2 of your paper, which I have discussed with you earlier. It comes in part 2, and it has two questions from the contemporary world. So we are going to cover two questions from the contemporary world, and today I'm beginning with the First World War, which comes in chapter 10. Okay, so let's start. Now, first of all, when we start, I have always told you, please check up on your syllabus. Whatever your syllabus says, only that much you will be questioned on that. The rest is for information and for understanding. Okay, so let's begin with the First World War. Before we begin with the First World War, you must understand the meaning of nationalism. What exactly do we mean by nationalism? Nationalism means a love for your country. When you love your country, it is called as nationalism. But this nationalism can become aggressive in the sense that if you start getting the feeling that only my country and my nation should matter, whereas the rest of the countries and rest of the nations can go to hell, in short, then that is bad, and that is aggressive nationalism, which is not good. Okay, and then that aggressive nationalism led to imperialism. Imperialism means where one nation or one country decides that I want to conquer territorial land of another country so that I can prove my power. Okay, so he makes that country into a colony just to prove his or her power. So that is imperialism. Now we'll see in detail what exactly your textbook says, because your textbook has given a lot of things in detail. So, and I prefer to stick to the textbook since you are going to appear for the ICSE exam of the CISE board, and this is the book that has been recommended by the board. So we come to chapter 10, the First World War. Okay, let's start. In 1914, a war began in Europe, which soon engulfed almost the entire world. Therefore, it was known as a World War, because its effect was felt in every country of the world. So, it was the First World War. Okay, with battles fought, so underline that, you begin with in 1914 up to entire world. With battles fought in Europe, Asia, Africa and the Pacific. This war was different. You can mark over that. Why was it the First World War? This war was different from the wars fought earlier in terms of its scale and repercussions. It was fought on a worldwide scale and affected almost all the countries of the world. So that is point number 1, why we call it a world war. So give reasons why it was called as a world war. Second point, new war methods of defense and destruction were used. Moreover, the earlier wars, so that was the second point, new war methods were used. Then in the earlier wars, the civilian populations were not involved, but in this war, it was fought by the people as a whole. Okay, so this marks a turning point in history. Therefore, you have got 3 reasons why it's called World War I, or why it was the First World War. Okay, now we come to the causes of the First World War. What is the first cause? Causes of the First World War: nationalism versus imperialism. Nationalism refers, underline, nationalism refers to a sense of unity felt by the people who share a common history, language and culture. In the latter half of the 19th century, this feeling of unity turned into extreme pride, which made the people of many countries believe that their country is superior to the other countries. This led to the development of aggressive nationalism in Europe, where they started believing that my country is more superior than all the other countries of the world. Okay, so this is called aggressive nationalism. The next definition is given to you. Please underline. Aggressive nationalism meant love for one's own country and hatred for other countries. Each nation thought about its own national interest and did not care for the interest of the other nations. For example, France wanted to get back its provinces from Alsace and Lorraine from Germany. Similarly, Italy wanted to get back the territory of Trentino-Tretis from Austria and the Balkan states like Serbia. From Austria, the Balkan states like Serbia wanted that their fellow nationals, the Salves, who lived in other states, should come together and form a greater Balkan state. Thus, these countries developed expansionist policies in the name of nationalism. Please underline, countries developed expansionist policies in the name of nationalism. Therefore, military strength became synonymous with national prestige, and every country began to increase its military power. This aggressive nationalism also led to The rise of imperialism. Now, what is imperialism? Imperialism refers to the state policy or practice by which a powerful nation establishes its control over another country, either by direct territorial acquisition or by gaining political and economic control. Once conquered, this country was claimed as a colony. So that's why we say that India was a colony, was a British colony, because we were conquered by the Britishers. These colonies were governed and administered by the imperial nation through its representatives or a puppet government. The imperial nations exploited the resources of these countries for their own economic interests. Colonies provided raw material, cheap labor, and agricultural land. You've done this in Indian history, that how farmers had been forced to grow indigo instead of cash crops or food crops, instead of food crops, so that it could be used by the imperial nation, and then it was sold back to us because we were a larger market. Okay, so that is how they used to use the colonies. They used to make the colonies, they used to procure the raw material from the colony for their industries. Then the raw material from the colonies went to the industries. They flourished in their industries, and then the finished products were sold again to us only. Okay, but what I wanted to notice is the next point that we are going to do, and that is by the end of the 19th century, England and France had built up a huge colonial empire in Asia and Africa. So even France also used to colonize people. It's not only the Britishers. It's not only Europe. Okay, so please get this out of your mind, that it was only Europe and only the Britishers who were bad. It's not that. Nobody is bad, nobody is good. It's all a matter of survival of the fittest. Whoever is stronger, that person survives, and that is exactly what was the main cause of the First World War. It was one of the causes, that I want to be stronger than the rest of the people so that I can conquer other people. That is called the policy of expansion, which is not good. Okay, which led to even the revolt of 1857, the first revolt. Okay, so that you have that in the first chapter, right? So that revolt, the policy, expansionist policy. Then we come to British imperialism was focused on maintaining and expanding trade by exploiting the resources of its colonies, India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Egypt, South Africa and the Caribbean islands, and many parts of Africa. Britain's imperial power was reinforced by a powerful and world's largest navy. Some other countries like Germany, Italy, Russia and Japan also wanted to increase their sphere of influence and create their colonies in Asia and Africa. So you can underline that there were other countries also who wanted to increase their power and establish their colonies. These colonies were essential for their progress, as they could provide raw material for their industries and markets for their finished products. Besides, acquiring colonies would add to power and prestige. This led to a clash of interests among these countries. Among which countries? The people who were imperialistic. So there was a clash amongst them. The colonies, there was no problem. The European powers began to scramble for expanding their economic and political empire. Thus, aggressive nationalism and fierce economic competition filled the atmosphere with fear, apprehension, mutual hatred, and international tension. People felt convinced that international problems could only be solved through militarism. That last line we need to underline: aggressive nationalism up to the word militarism. So this became a wrong notion at that time. At that time, people did not feel it was wrong. They felt it was right, and they felt that feeling was there, that my nation is superior, and if I want to continue being superior, I have to be able to rule over other nations. Okay, so this was what they felt. So I think we've covered up that. I've given you all the points, and I want to tell you all children that when you're asked a question, like I told you that there are two questions on the contemporary world. Okay, so that 10 marks each. So we cover 20 marks in the contemporary world. Now what I want to tell you is that they are not going to ask you that give the causes of the First World War. No, you will be asked a particular question, that how did discuss how nationalism or imperialism was one of the causes of the First World War. So they'll ask you to discuss one particular thing, or they'll tell you discuss two of the causes. Okay, or they can tell you discuss the immediate cause. The immediate cause you are being given over here, which was the Sarajevo crisis. Okay, see, it's given to you on the next place, the next page. The Sarajevo crisis was the immediate cause of the First World War. Okay, so you will be asked a specific question. It's not that you're going to be asked a haywire question that discuss all the causes. Nobody is going to ask you like that. Okay, so you have to know each cause also in detail, because in your syllabus it says that you are supposed to do the causes of the First World War, and then you have to do the results of the First World War. The rest of the things are for your information, for your knowledge, for you to understand what exactly happened. Okay, because it's history. We are learning history. Okay. So now this first cause we have done, nationalism and imperialism. I have given you the points to be marked. So if you write that much, then you are covering up the entire point. And no marks can be deducted if you write this much. Okay. Now we come to the next cause, which was the race for armaments. Now obviously the race for armaments is going to result because everybody wants to be more superior, more stronger than the person next to him. So when that happens, everybody wants to gather more and more. Okay, so the mad race for armaments, which began soon after the Franco-Prussian War. Now, Franco-Prussian War took place in 1870, which was one of the reasons which led to the First World War. Okay, now who are the Prussians and all? I have discussed in my story, in my module of the last lesson by Alphonse Daudet. So you can refer to all that, okay, in case you haven't referred it still. Every major power began stockpiling armaments in the name of self-defense and preservation of peace. As a result, so you mark till preservation of peace. As a result, if one country increased its armaments, the other countries also wanted to. So in order to protect Nespera, in order to protect her colonies in Africa and a few islands in Pacific, Germany began to build a powerful navy with a view to achieving parity with Britain. So Britain was very strong. Britain had a strong navy, like we saw in the first cause. She had a very strong navy. So Germany also wanted to protect her territories. Her colonies were in a few islands in the Pacific. But to protect an island, you have to have a strong navy. So even Germany began to have a strong navy. Okay. By 1914, Germany had left Britain and France far behind in the production of iron and steel and many other manufactures. One of its ships, the Imperator, Germans dug the Kiel Canal deeper, was the largest in the world. The Germans dug the Kiel Canal deeper so that the battleships could enter its waters. Okay, now underline, Britain and France were concerned with Germany's growing military strength, and this led to a fierce competition among the European countries and gave rise to the race for armaments. Okay, so that is what happened, and that is why, because Britain and France were strong, they were already powerful, but Germany also increased her power, and because Germany increased her power, Britain and France felt threatened, and therefore it led to an enmity amongst all these people. Did you understand? So it led to a race of armaments. Is that clear? So we have covered the two main points. Now over here, where I've made you underline up to the word peace, and then you can add your own notes over there, that to come on par with Britain's force, with Britain's navy, Germany increased her naval strength. Okay, to come on par with Britain. So you can add that one line over there, and then you can write that Britain and France were concerned with Germany's growing military strength. Is that clear? So with that we have completed the two main points. Now I want you all to learn these two main points so that we can do the third and the fourth cause. The Sarajevo cause is very important. We need to discuss that in detail because that is the immediate cause. You may not be asked as a Sarajevo cause. You may be asked what was the immediate cause of the First World War. So in that we discuss that, and I'll discuss that in my next module. So till then, wish you all a goodbye, and do study very well, and keep learning, keep practicing, and that's it. So here's your facilitator for the ICSE History Civics paper, Himangi, wishing you all the best and happy learning.